because the company, and one thing you should do is Rob, you should make sure that you documented everybody who's here. So that if this ever would come up, not that you guys can be so smart now and you're going to keep me out of work because you're not going to do these things that we've been talking about. But let's say someone does complain. We're going to say, well, no, we've conducted training, for our supervisors. Our supervisors are aware we have a policy, all these kinds of things. And this kind of adds to the case. This is a company that cares about doing things the right way. And so that's important. So that's why you are here today, because that last point there. Oh, there's another point, sorry. Discourage relationships with management and employee. Again, this is a company cultural thing. Each company has its own culture, and you're allowed to have your own rules. However, my opinion in defending cases like these for 30-some years now is that it's probably a good idea to discourage those relationships between management and employees because there's going to be favoritism. One of the things I didn't say earlier, I normally say when we're talking about the female relationship, male and female relationship that was they acquiesced in the beginning and then later she called it off. I usually say that all good things come to an end. So it may be a good relationship at the beginning, but when things fall apart in that relationship, and then you have adverse job actions, now you've got the company involved, not just the couple involved.
Can you have policy regarding two equal employees dating? Can you have policy saying
Sure.
you don't allow that?
Sure, sure, you can.
So they can't come back and say, hey, that's discrimination.
Right.
You didn't work for me. I don't want
Right, right, yeah.
I don't think we have that. Where, but
Yeah, and those are usually harder to enforce because you may not know about them as much, and they're probably less, to me, they're less important because it's not a supervisor. Because once it's a supervisor involved, the company, even though you at the in the executive suite may not know about it, the company technically knows about it because it's a supervisor. With two coworkers, that is not, the knowledge of that relationship is not asserted to the company. So that's why it's a little different in my opinion. But I think it's a good idea to discourage those relationships anyway. Instead, all good things come to them, just like my presentation, all good things come to me. Questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We deal with a large residential client base,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot of people in and out of homes. And what is the best way potentially to protect our employees being in those situations where they're one-on-one or put in a compromising position with a potential customer?
Sure, sure.
Other than telling them to leave.
Right,
But
right.
is there some way that we can, because we're so exposed,
Mhm.
because obviously the residential, that private base is not
Right.
totally up to speed
Yeah.
on how to treat.
Oh, sure, it's
employees.
a great question. Because people can allege anything.
Yes.
I think in that scenario, the best thing to do is, again, it comes back to documentation. And so I would document, if I was the service worker, for example, I would make a note somewhere to the file, not necessarily the paperwork that's given to the customer, but identifying who was there, during that time. And maybe if the service worker feels uncomfortable, maybe it's time to bring someone else in. Maybe it's time for him to take a lunch break, and he calls the office to say, look, this person's over my back the whole time while I'm working. I'm not sure what's going on here, or whatever. I don't feel comfortable. One thing I would recommend not doing, and that's a situation we had at our house a couple of years ago, where a painter, and this was not any problem as far as sexual harassment, but the painter would take his breaks, it was the summertime, and he'd go on my pool deck and sun himself with his basically down to his shorts. And so as a customer, we reported that to the supervisor, the owner of the company, and he said, yeah, that's not right, so we talked to the guy about it. But if you flip that thing, and so the guy, let's say he's claiming, well, the customer's out there, in her bikini, Well, that's her property, it's her right to do that. It's only when something goes, he starts to feel uncomfortable. And that's kind of where we're talking about all this is sensing things and being aware of what's going on around you.
However, if they request not to go back, as a
Mhm.
company, I don't think you should say, no, that's your job, you have to go back.
I think that's good, absolutely.
What about a situation, and we had this happen to us, I've only seen it once, but it's not a customer harassing an employee,
Mhm.
it's a complaint from an employee that, hey, one of your employees, it's a complaint from a customer.
Mhm.
When your employees came out to sell me blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
and he was hitting on me,
Right.
even though I'm married, or whatever. They actually call us and complain about it.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a sexual harassment case, but it's definitely
That would not be a sexual harassment case from that customer to you. However, there could be a claim of, that goes to court, criminal court or civil court, of the action. So, you want to handle that almost as if it was an internal complaint. So you want to go meet with that customer, find out what that customer had to say. You want to document that you talked to your employee about it, made the employee aware of it. And, if they continue to get complaints like that, maybe that person's no longer a canvasser, for example. Because I could see canvassers in particular being, in a real tough situation. They're going cold call at someone's house, and next thing you know, that person comes back to the company and complains that, and maybe that's what you're kind of talking about,
I was flip-flopping it, but yes, I
yeah,
get it.
yeah, where you could have that situation, they complain that the salesperson was, or the canvasser was, suggesting things or whatever. And that's not a canvasser you want out there doing that kind of
I
work.
was actually.
and it wasn't a canvasser, just so you know, it was an actual sales rep.
The customer that doing it for them, somebody is in that position.
Right.
And that's probably,
Yeah, yeah.
because they're out there.
But you document it and you remove them from the situation.
Right, exactly.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Other questions? Yeah.
Talk a lot about documentation. When you're in court, what are some things specifically that you would like to see on that documentation
Very good
when
question.
we give it to Robbie to put in files?
What I want to see, names, dates, and, who is present, those kinds of things. But probably the most important thing is the date on there and who's writing the report.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so make sure you sign the report, and that you date it. Because, it's more, from what we call an evidentiary standpoint, it's more credible if something is written right then.
Right.
Than it is 6 months later when there's a charge of discrimination filed, and then you say, yeah, this is what I remember about that date. I mean, that's still helpful, but the thing that the documentation that we got on the day it occurred is going to be more persuasive to a judge or jury, than the stuff that is written 6 months later. Yeah, but definitely, you'd be surprised at how often I'll see a report that doesn't have a date on it,
Yeah.
so I don't know when it was written.
Also, this is to our employees, it is so imperative that you document everything, especially performance. And I think we do a good job of that. We have performance reports and performance reviews. Because if we're not documenting poor performance, we're acknowledging good performance. Let's say that we let somebody go for not doing their job, but we've not documented any critiques. We've not provided them with a definition of what's expected of them to begin with, which I think we do a pretty good job of that, job descriptions and performance standards. But if we don't document over a period of time that they're not hitting these standards, and let's say you rightfully let them go. We got a sales rep that closes at 5%, and we spent tons of money on those leads, or we got a canvasser that's not doing their job, or, we got an installer